Hello, everybody. This is Miguel, the movie encyclopedia here. I'm here today to give my thoughts and my review of the ninth Quentin Tarantino movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. My initial thoughts going into this film was I was really excited for this movie because I am a big fan of Tarantino's work. I love most of his films, and I really loved his last movie, The Hateful Eight, so I was really excited for this film. And I was pretty satisfied with it. It's not one of Quentin Tarantino's strongest films, which I was a little bit disappointed by, but overall it was a pretty interesting, pretty fun movie that kept my attention throughout its almost 3 hour runtime, mainly due to Quentin Tarantino's brilliant cinematography and the great performances by Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. So here's my quick plot synopsis. The movie follows Leonardo DiCaprio as Rick Dalton, a faded television actor who's best friends with his stunt double, Cliff Booth, played by Brad Pitt. This actor stunt double duo are trying to make a comeback in the film industry during the end of the golden age of Hollywood in 1969. The plot and the story of this film isn't actually super important. The film is mainly a bunch of short stories loosely connected around this plot that all come together at the very end of the film. And that's very standard for a Quentin Tarantino movie, so I wasn't super surprised. And even though the story isn't the strongest part of this movie, what saves this film from being bad are the fantastic performances by Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. These aren't the strongest performances they've ever done, but this is definitely some of the strongest performances they've ever done in a Tarantino movie. I absolutely love DiCaprio and Brad Pitt in this movie. They are a fantastic duo on screen, even though they're not on screen that much in this film. Whenever they are literally perfect. They are perfect. They have such great chemistry together. But even when they're apart, these two actors give great performances. I mean, they are very entertaining characters who really embody like the best parts of a Tarantino character. They're not completely good people and they're not completely bad people. They're very much down the middle, kind of like anti-heroes without all the anti-hero stuff we expect. They're just people, a lot of good, a lot of bad mixed together. And Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt really just thrive in this kind of character environment. And I was very surprised because they usually play either good guys or bad guys. Seeing them play a little bit of both, it really worked. And I really just want to give props to DiCaprio and Pitt. The cinematography and like just the visual storytelling is, of course, like for every Tarantino movie, it's fantastic. Tarantino does an amazing job making the story and the characters feel like they're in 1969 Hollywood. And I love all the times when he creates like these advertisements or these scenes from 1960s Rick Dalton films. I thought those worked really well and they looked fantastic. And I just like, oh my god, this looks so much like The Great Escape or Once Upon a Time in the West or Fistful of Dollars, and I loved all the homages to 1960s Hollywood and to spaghetti western specifically. As a person who's actually studied spaghetti western in college, like all the references, visual and literary references to spaghetti westerns were just fantastic and hilarious, and just reminds me of how much Quentin Tarantino loves old cinema. I do wish the movie had a more like interesting, like story driven film, but I mean, I still like all the character driven moments of this film, and it kept my attention, and it had me pretty much happy. My biggest complaint with this film would have to be Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate. This movie completely wasted Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate. I mean, she is barely in the film, and when she is, she has a completely one-dimensional personality. I was incredibly disappointed by Margot Robbie and Tarantino's writing of Sharon Tate. It honestly felt like they could have completely written out almost all the Sharon Tate scenes of this film, and the movie would have been no different. It wouldn't have been better, and it wouldn't have been worse. Sharon Tate barely affected this movie whatsoever. The only reason they had her in this film was for the ending of the film. And even though that ending was probably my favorite scene of the entire film, if they wanted Sharon Tate so badly for this ending, they could have just had her in a cameo at the very end of the film, which they did, but the rest of her scenes in this movie were completely pointless. I am very angry that Tarantino completely wasted Margot Robbie's talents with such a one-dimensional character. Luckily, Sharon Tate is barely in this movie, so when she's on screen, you don't, hate when she's on screen, but you don't particularly love it when she's on screen, so it doesn't destroy the movie. Overall, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a pretty satisfying film. It's not his best works like The Hateful Eight or Pulp Fiction or Kill Bill, but it's not one of his weakest films like Jackie Brown. This is overall a decent, down-the-middle film for Tarantino, and if you're a Tarantino fan, I would watch it. If you love old-fashioned cinema, I would watch it. If you're looking for something more story-driven, then maybe skip this film. I'm going to give Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a 7.5 out of 10 stars. Thank you all for watching. If you like my review, comment below and hit the subscribe button. I'm definitely looking for more subscribers. I have a question for my audience. What did you think of Margot Robbie's performance as Sharon Tate? Did you think it was very necessary to the film? Or, like me, did you think that her role was completely useless to the story? Thank you all for watching. See you next time.